He was just a homeless boy digging through trash to survive, until he heard a faint cry that would change everything. What he found in that bin shocked an entire city and uncovered a truth no one saw coming. This isn't just a rescue story, it's a story that will break you. The sun bore down relentlessly on the streets of Lagos that afternoon, baking the pavements and turning the city into a furnace. Car horns blared from every direction, kiki drivers yelled for passengers, and hawkers pushed through traffic, selling everything from cold drinks to recharge cards. Amid the chaos, 14-year-old Emmanuel maneuvered through the crowd, dragging a makeshift sack that was nearly as tall as he was. It was patched in several places with nylon, a tattered thing he picked up weeks ago from a dump in Soralia. To others, it looked like garbage, but to Emmanuel, it was his treasure bag, his daily source of hope. He was small for his age, with sun-darkened skin, bare feet hardened by years on the street, and eyes that had seen more than most adults. Emmanuel hadn't always lived like this. Once, there was a home. A father who carried him on his shoulders and called him a champion. A time when dinner meant hot yam and stew instead of leftovers from the back of a restaurant. But after his father died in a bike accident 2 years ago, everything changed. His stepmother, never fond of him to begin with, wasted no time pushing him out. She said he was too much responsibility. So one day, Emmanuel came home to find the front door locked and all his belongings dumped in a black bag by the gutter. He knocked until his knuckles bled, but no one answered. That was the beginning of his life on the streets. He learned quickly. Not because he wanted to, but because he had to. You didn't survive long in Lagos without learning the rules. Stay close to people, but not too close. Some would rob you, others would beat you just for breathing. Eat when you can, sleep with one eye open, and never, ever cry. Crying was a luxury, and Emmanuel had run out of those long ago. That afternoon, he was in Lekki, far from his usual scavenging spot. He'd heard from another street boy that the trash around the upscale plazas held richer pickings, plastic bottles in bulk, aluminum cans, even abandoned electronics. He decided to try his luck. His sack already had some value, about 10 PET bottles, a broken car charger, 2 empty Coke cans, and a rusted frying pan. Not great, but better than nothing. He approached a large, open-top bin behind a popular supermarket. The stench was overpowering, a sharp mix of rotting food, expired milk, and old diapers. Flies hovered in thick clouds. Emmanuel didn't flinch. He tied the lower part of his shirt over his nose and climbed up the side of the bin, peering into the pile. Carefully, he began to dig, lifting aside cardboard boxes, pushing aside torn nylons, stacking anything with potential resale value in a separate pile. Then he heard it. At first, it was faint, a soft, almost imperceptible whimper. Emmanuel paused, hand frozen in midair. His ears perked. Again, the sound came. A muffled cry. Like that of a kitten, he thought. Maybe one got stuck inside the bin. Curious, he dug deeper toward the sound, tossing aside a plastic crate and lifting a half-shredded brown sack. There it was. His heart dropped. Nestled between 2 moldy cartons was a baby. A real baby. Not a doll. Not a prank. An actual human baby, wrapped tightly in a faded wrapper soaked in something reddish, blood or maybe rust, Emmanuel couldn't tell. The child was barely moving, lips trembling, eyes half closed. His mouth went dry. He looked around, half expecting someone to pop out and yell, "Gotcha." But no one was there. Just him and the baby. "Jesus," he muttered under his breath. "What do I do?" He stared at the baby for what felt like a full minute before instincts kicked in. He tore off his shirt, the only clean one he had, a red polo he'd found just days ago, and carefully wrapped the child in it. He was shaking. His hands were dirty, his nails blackened from digging through trash, but he tried his best to be gentle. "Don't die, please," he whispered. Don't die. He climbed down from the bin and ran. He didn't know where exactly. He just ran. People on the sidewalk moved aside as he burrowed through. Some stared at the shirt-wrapped bundle in his arms, confused. Others ignored him completely. Lagos was like that. People minded their business, even when a barefoot boy was sprinting with a nearly unconscious baby. He reached the main road and spotted a small pharmacy beside a POS shop. The signage read, First Trust Medications. He dashed in. The pharmacist, a tall, middle-aged man with a receding hairline and thick glasses, looked up from his counter. He blinked when he saw Emmanuel. I beg, help me. Emmanuel gasped. The baby, he's not breathing well. Please do something. The pharmacist stared for a second, then glanced at the bundle in his arms. Where you get baby from? Please, he go die if you no help him. The man walked around the counter, peered into the shirt, and frowned. This baby need hospital. I no fit help you here. Please, anything, water, oxygen, just do something. Wetin I go take treat am? You get money? No. Then sorry. I no be charity. The pharmacist turned his back and walked away, leaving Emmanuel standing in the middle of the shop, heart racing, throat burning. He felt helpless. Furious. A scream built in his chest, but he swallowed it. He looked down at the baby again. The child made a weak, wheezing sound. I have to do something. He ran out. Outside, cars zipped past. The traffic was heavy but moving. Without thinking, Emmanuel stepped into the road, holding the baby high, waving both hands. Help me, he shouted. Please, somebody help me. Drivers honked and swerved. A Kiki driver yelled curses at him. A downfall bus nearly knocked him down. But he stood there, tears in his eyes, refusing to move. Please. No baby. He did die. Then, a black SUV came to a sudden stop in front of him. The window rolled down. A woman in her late 20s leaned out, wearing a blue ochre top and dark glasses. She looked sharply at Emmanuel, then at the bundle in his arms. What's going on? She asked. Emmanuel couldn't answer. He just held out the baby. The woman's eyes widened. Is that a newborn? He nodded quickly. Where did you find this baby? In dustbin. Behind Plaza, he replied, voice shaking. Get in. The passenger door opened. Emmanuel didn't think twice. He climbed in. The air conditioning hit him like a wave. It was the coldest air he'd felt in months. He sat stiffly, still holding the baby. The woman was already on the phone. Yes, I'm bringing in a newborn, possibly abandoned. Yes. Lekki Axis. Yes, I'm on my way now. Get a doctor ready. She turned to Emmanuel. My name is Nkechi. I'm a journalist. What's yours? Emmanuel. Well, Emmanuel, she said, I'm serious, you just saved a life today. Emmanuel didn't reply. He was too scared. Too overwhelmed. His arms were aching from holding the baby so tightly, but he didn't dare loosen his grip. As the SUV sped off, weaving through traffic, he looked down at the tiny child in his arms and whispered again, don't die. Please don't die. They arrived at a private clinic within 15 minutes. It was a small but clean place, with glass doors and white walls. 2 nurses rushed out with a stretcher. Nkechi guided Emmanuel inside as the baby was transferred into the nurse's care. Doctors took over, wheeling the infant into the emergency unit. Emmanuel stood by the entrance, frozen. His hands were shaking, his legs felt weak, and for the first time in years, he felt dizzy from fear, not hunger. A nurse handed him a bottle of water. Drink, small boy. You tried. He nodded and took a sip. Nkechi approached him gently. "They'll do everything they can," she said. "You're very brave, Emmanuel. Where are your parents?" He shook his head. "Papa don't die. Stepmother chased me." "And you live where?" "Under bridge. Sometimes under kiosk. Depends." She inhaled slowly, clearly stunned. "How long have you been on the street?" 2 years. She sat down beside him. "Why did you help the baby?" Most people would have walked away. Emmanuel didn't know how to explain it. He just said, "Because him small. Him no fit talk. Him go die if nobody help." She looked at him long and hard. "You did something extraordinary today. And I think the world needs to know." He blinked. "Why?" "Because people like you deserve better. You saved someone's life today, Emmanuel. That matters." He looked at her, unsure if he believed her. But something in her voice, calm, certain, made him want to trust her. He'd never been in a hospital before. Never sat on a cushioned chair in an air-conditioned room. Never had someone hand him water just because they cared. It all felt strange. Unfamiliar. But also, warm. The doctor emerged an hour later with good news. The baby was stable. Slightly dehydrated, a bit underweight, but alive. He had no fever, no infections, and would recover fully with proper care. Nkechi hugged Emmanuel when she heard. It was the first time anyone had hugged him in years. He stiffened at first, then slowly relaxed. That night, she offered him a hotel room to sleep in, a small, modest place nearby. He almost said no. He didn't know how to sleep on a bed anymore. But the thought of a roof, a door, and no mosquitoes won him over. As he lay on the bed that night, staring at the ceiling fan, Emmanuel thought of the baby. He didn't know the child's name. He didn't know if he'd ever see him again. But something had changed in him. Something big. For the first time in his life, Emmanuel had done something that made the world stop and listen. And the world, at least one part of it, was about to listen very, very closely. He stared at the spinning ceiling fan, listening to its gentle whir as it cut through the hotel room silence. For someone used to sleeping beneath roaring traffic and the crackling whispers of rats near his ear, this silence felt unfamiliar. Almost unsettling. The bed underneath him was soft, too soft. It made him feel like he might sink through it and vanish. The sheets were clean. The pillow smelled like soap. There was a bathroom inside the room, with a toilet that flushed and a tap that gave real, running water. Emmanuel had turned the tap on and off at least 10 times when he first saw it, marveling at the miracle. He turned onto his side and stared at the wall. The baby's face lingered in his mind. So tiny. So helpless. He wondered what kind of woman could leave a child in the trash like that. What pain could lead to such cruelty? And yet, hadn't he been left too? Not in a bin, but on the streets, thrown away by the only family he had left. Was it really that different? His chest tightened. He swallowed hard and blinked back, the tears creeping up again. He hadn't cried in months. He didn't allow himself to. Crying was weakness. Crying got you beaten, robbed, or mocked. But in that moment, lying on a clean bed for the first time in years, knowing a baby was alive because of him, Emmanuel allowed a single tear to roll down his cheek. Just one. The next morning, Nkechi returned. She knocked once and opened the door gently, balancing a white nylon bag. "Good morning, champ," she said with a warm smile. Emmanuel sat up awkwardly, blinking away sleep. "I brought you breakfast, bread and egg, and a malt." He reached for the nylon with wide eyes. "For me. For you." He took it slowly, almost suspiciously, as if expecting someone to snatch it away. She sat beside him as he ate, watching him devour the food in seconds. He didn't even chew properly. He couldn't help it. His stomach had known hunger for too long. Nkechi studied him for a long moment before speaking. "I'm writing about you." He looked up, mouth full. "Me?" She nodded. "I told my editor." About the baby. About how you found him. About how you risked your life trying to save his. He said the world needs stories like this. He didn't know what to say. He'd never imagined someone would care to write anything about him, except maybe to accuse him of stealing. I want to take your photo, she continued. Not to expose you. Not to shame you. To celebrate you. You're a hero. I know be hero, he muttered. Yes, you are. That afternoon, they returned to the clinic together. The baby was doing better, and the nurses had even cleaned him up, wrapped him in fresh clothes, and fed him. He looked like a different child. Emmanuel stood beside the crib and watched him sleep. Something about the baby made him feel needed, like he mattered. The doctors still hadn't found the baby's mother. There were no CCTV cameras near the bin, and no witnesses had come forward. But the story, once Nkechi published it, went viral. By the end of the week, Emmanuel's face was all over social media. Trash boy becomes lifesaver. Street kid saves baby abandoned in Lekki. True Lagos hero, the orphan who saved a life. People commented in droves. Some offered money. Others called to adopt him. NGOs reached out. Schools promised scholarships. Even local celebrities reposted the story. Overnight, Emmanuel became a symbol of hope, a street child who did the right thing when many adults wouldn't even stop. Nkechi made sure to shield him from the chaos. She took him to buy new clothes, nothing fancy, just clean and comfortable. She helped him open a small bank account. She arranged counseling sessions and promised to help him return to school if he wanted. But Emmanuel didn't care about the fame. He didn't care about the comments, the reposts, or the donations. He only cared that the baby was alive. Every day, he visited the clinic. He named the baby David, inspired by the Bible story Nkechi once told him, the small boy who fought a giant. Because him strong, he'd said, he no die, even for dustbin. Eventually, the government got involved. Social services began searching for a foster home for the child. But Emmanuel grew more anxious. He didn't want David to disappear into the system. He feared he'd never see him again. Nkechi noticed. You've grown attached to him, haven't you? He nodded. She sighed. You know you're still a child yourself, Emmanuel. I fit take care of him. She smiled sadly. I believe you would try your best. But let's do it right. Get you in school. Get you off the street for good. That way, you can be part of his life later, as someone who's ready. He said nothing. But deep down, he understood. That night, as he stood by the crib again and watched David sleep peacefully, Emmanuel made a silent promise. He would not let the world chew him up anymore. He would not be forgotten. He would rise, not just for himself, but for this baby he had pulled from the shadows. Even if nobody else had believed in him before, David's little heartbeat had changed everything. Because that was the thing about saving a life, you often ended up saving your own in the process.
Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe for more teachable and inspiring folk tales by Effie.